I'm reading today from my novel Outsourced. Chapters are fairly short, so I've chosen 3. They're not exactly consecutive, but you're not going to miss anything with the story that unfolds. Just to fill in the readers who are unfamiliar with the novel, Polanski is a professional assassin who has just been acquitted of 270 plus murders and is out in a coffee shop having coffee and apple pie, and he's being watched. The agent used the top of the passenger seat to steady the Helios monocular. He was using it on the maximum setting of 25 power magnification, and even the slightest tremor made the image wobble. He was only half a block from the cafeteria with a clear view of Polanski seated inside, yet the potent zoom offered by the black rubberized cylinder was necessary to observe the details. "He's just ordered coffee," he spoke for the benefit of the people listening on the speaker at the other end of the phone call. "Just sitting there?" The voice carried agitation, impatience, fear, all mixed into a flat echo by the cell phone speaker. He's turned slightly away, both hands on the table. "Can't you see the device? Is he using it? Describe it." "I can't tell from here." The agent paused, taking his eye from the single lens and scanning the street. "I could try to get closer, but there's not much cover. It's so hot, the street is practically empty, and I'm sure to be spotted." No, we can't risk that. Stay where you are. Try to see if he's using it." He chose not to reply. Monitoring the use of the device was, after all, one of the prime objectives of Phase 2 of the mission. Phase 1's goal had been identifying it, and they'd failed miserably at that. Polanski's detention, for the 2 years the trial had taken, had not helped. The guy was smart. He'd not been caught in over 20 years. As soon as he suspected they were going to move in, he'd hidden the device, left it with someone, whatever. Covert searches of his hotel suite, his lawyer's office, and any of the other 20 or 30 places he had frequented in the days leading to the arrest had turned up nothing. Did he have it again? Had the attorney collected it for him? They should have executed another search there a couple of days ago, as he'd suggested. Polanski looked towards the street. The agent placed his eye against the monocular again. It's almost as though his target was staring directly at him. Polanski raised his right hand. He held something, used it to salute his observer across the intervening distance. The agent twisted the zoom ring on the scope, but it was already wound up to the max. The man held a disposable pen. He'd been writing something. He knew the agent was watching. Not really a surprise. More something to be expected given the situation. Still, he'd been made. He called it in, not anticipating any change in his orders. Stay put, watch, observe, call if you see the device. SWAT was staged 2 blocks over. ETA 60 seconds if needed. The agent saw Polanski's hand drop back down to the table, watched as his body turned a little more to adopt a more comfortable posture as he continued his writing. He was completely unaware the circumstances had just changed drastically. Polanski screwed up the single sheet of toilet paper, now replete with close-spaced writing, and used his spoon to push it into his 3rd cup of coffee. The order of the extra caffeine had not been in response to the need for a jolt after so long incarcerated, but to provide the means to destroy the evidence linking him to what was about to happen. He stirred the sheet slowly, watching as the hot liquid broke its fibers and turned the excellent coffee into unpalatable sludge. He knew that even with the latest in document forensic science, no one was going to recover what had been written on that page. He smiled, glanced at his watch, and wondered how long he'd have to wait. He called the waitress and paid his bill, adding a generous tip. Then he folded the single sheet of inkjet paper twice and inserted it into the padded envelope. Finally, he picked up the narrow box of unpolished wood, opened its lid, and admired the contents for the last time. He placed the object on the table, debating if he was doing the right thing. Yes, it was time. He'd had a good run, made millions of this once he'd figured it out. He knew the feds plus others of a more dangerous disposition, were following him, and although he would lose the tail he had today, it would not take them long to find him again. Yes, now was a good moment to retire. He had no living family, so sending the box and its contents to a distant relative was out of the question. Regarding friends, well, in his line of business that had been a luxury he had avoided. Perhaps that would change now, who knows? He chuckled softly, drawing the attention of the waitress. He smiled at her, slipped the closed box into the envelope, pressed down the self-adhesive flap, then checked he had not left anything on the table or the nearby floor. Anything incriminating, that was. With a last glance at the slurry in the coffee cup, he stood and made for the door. The heat hit him like a physical blow as he stepped outside. His suit jacket was draped over his arm, hiding the envelope underneath from the view of the agent in the car on the opposite side of the street. He spied a mailbox on the sidewalk some 50 feet away and calmly strolled towards it. A squeal of rubber against overheated asphalt knifed through the air. The lawyer was in trouble and he knew it. First it had been the blinking lights on the dashboard, then the accelerator pedal lowered of its own accord. A smell of burning, the smoky tang of electrical installation, emanated from somewhere below. The car accelerated. He stomped on the brake pedal and it sank to its maximum depth, yet the car refused to slow. More angry red lights illuminated the dashboard. Major failure. Stop immediately. If only he could. He pumped the brake pedal, seeking resistance, response, acknowledgement. He still had some control over the heavy vehicle. Nothing. Steadfastly rebuffed his attempts, remained fixed to the floor. He was doing 80 now, the speed slowly climbing. Thank God the streets were empty. A few cars were parked at the curbs. That's it, he thought. Turn onto a side straight where there would be more cars and brush against them, use friction to slow his car. He yanked the wheel to the right, taking the first road on offer. A one-way, cars parked on both sides, only one pedestrian he could see. Wait, wasn't that? The car bounced along the sides of 4 parked vehicles, sparks flying, wing mirrors made missiles. The crunch of metal against metal screamed through the heavy air. 2 wheels left the ground as his car rode up the wall of parked cars. The front near side tyre impacted against the back of the next car in line, flipping him around. Rubber bit into the road surface. A deadly tumble ensued. The luxury sedan left the ground, now travelling almost upside down. The lawyer, without a seatbelt to keep him in position, was thrown around the interior. He was unaware of the man exiting the parked car on the far side of the road. The heavy vehicle traversed the lane in less than a second, smashing its side into the parked car, crushing the scrambling man. Its momentum flipped it in the air, its brief trajectory abruptly halted by entwined metal, causing it to slam down on top of the occupied vehicle. Instantly fire started. Sparks, metal heated through friction, and gasoline pouring from the ruptured tank were not a good mix. In the narrow street, the explosion and resultant shockwave blew in the windows of the coffee shop. 50 feet away, a man dropped a package into a mailbox, turned, smiled, and walked towards the junction.